Hey, you. Yeah, you. Thanks for clicking that YouTube link, my friend. This is the part where I get you really, really excited. It's episode 1. It's going to be a great show. We got Josh Evaldi of Protolith, and we got me telling you why I'm here and why I'm doing this. So thanks again for clicking that link and listening to the Cry to Hell podcast. Click it, stick around. So let me tell you why I'm here. As a lot of you know, and that's just what I'm going to do every single time I do this, I'm just going to talk as if there is a whole mess of people listening to me. There's probably only a few people listening to me, but I hope so at least. But I'm just going to talk as if there's a really big crowd. And as those of you who are listening may know, I am a musician, and I've been a musician for, this is like maybe my 10th year, I think. Oh, geez. I don't know. Doesn't matter. 9 or 10 years. But I'm in a band called Warm, and that's kind of like my life's work. And I've been in this band now for 3.5 years, going on 4 years. I think we started spring or May or June of 2010. But needless to say, being in this band, this has probably been like the most social part of my life. And for a lot of you who know me, you probably know that I'm not a very social person. I don't really go out very much, and I'm pretty much just usually in my room most of the time. And that's just how I roll, I guess. I like my room. And I usually only have, a pretty small group of friends, and really for the past how many years now, it's my closest friends have been my bandmates. But needless to say, playing a lot of shows, I've met, and we've met as a group, a lot of different people, and most of those people, or a good majority of those people, are musicians. Or they're people who are just really, really into music, and they're, either gigging musicians, or they used to gig and now they just make music on their own, or maybe they just play an instrument now, what have you. I've met a lot of different people, and I've noticed a trend, and this is what I hope to do with this podcast. When I meet these people, or we meet these people as a group, and we start talking, and whether it's because we're staying at your house, because we're driving somewhere the next day, because we had very fortunate this last summer to have the opportunity to tour, tour up and down the Northeast and headed out towards the Midwest. We got all the way out to D.C., or we were supposed to get out to D.C., but that's a different story for a different time. Anyway, or if we're hanging at a basement show, and there's a different band who they're staying over because they're on tour, and we just sit down and we talk with them. There's this trend, and it's some people just cannot believe that there's other people in the world that think like they do, whether it's about music, or whether it's about the music scene, or whether it's about art in general. It's this really cool thing that happens, and people kind of go, whoa, like, I can't believe there's people that say the same things as I do about music and movies and everything. And that's the thing, and I really hope to not just bring musicians here, primarily musicians, because obviously that's most of the people who I know, but not just musicians, but artists, the whole slew of people, whether you make movies, or you draw, or you play an instrument, what have you. I hope to really grow this, and I hope to get in touch with as many different kind of artists as I possibly can, because I think that would be really cool. But like I said, primarily we're going to talk to mostly musicians, and I have this guy who's supposed to be, not supposed to be, but he's going to be here every now and then. His name, he's a very good friend of mine. His name is Matt Sampson, and he's going to be joining us. He's going to be kind of my in-house guy, and we're not just going to bore you with talking about music. We're gonna kind of banter back and forth and tell you about our days and yada yada yada. And I think we're pretty funny, and I think we might actually make you laugh a little bit if you give us the chance. He's not going to be here for this debut episode, but he will be here sometimes, not all the time. He's helped me with so much throughout the years, whether it's recording or computers or whatever. He's just an all-around great guy. He really, really, really is. And I hope when he hears this, he gets all warm and bubbly and fuzzy, and he really wants to be a part of this. But needless to say, we are on episode number 1 of the I Am a Cry to Hell podcast, and I don't want to talk too long about stuff you may or may not have already read. Tonight, when you start something new, you turn to your friends, right? Well, tonight I am going to turn to a friend of mine. His name is Josh Evaldi, and he plays guitar and sings in a band called Protolith, which I'm sure if you're listening, you know that, or if you know us and you're listening, Protolith and Warm are very, very, very good friends, and we've played a lot of shows together. We've had a lot of fun together, and we're going to talk to Josh about a whole lot of stuff. I had the privilege of engineering, or what have you. I think that's what we're going to call it. I was the guy who plugged in a bunch of mics and moved the mics around and pushed the record button a whole bunch. But I had the privilege of being the engineer on Protolith's second release. It's an EP called Sunsetter, and we're going to get to how you can check all that stuff out and the process of that and every release they've had. It's going to be a good time. So, big breath of fresh air, and here we are. And ladies and gentlemen, our guest for the evening, Josh Evaldi of Protolith. Josh, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How you feeling? You happy to be here?
Yes.
You're a part of history right now. Legitimately, you are the first guest on a podcast of which there are probably 4 people, and 2 of them are me downloading.
They're going to be reading about this in books and like middle schools in like 20 years from now.
Yeah, I hope so. No, I don't hope that. But anyway, so you are in a band called Protolith. Is that true?
That is true.
So you and I have had the privilege of we don't have a lot of time to sit down in a room and talk to each other about this kind of stuff. I think we have, but it's pretty cool because we can do it this way, and maybe some people will hear it. But you as a musician, let's see. I heard about you guys because a buddy of mine plays bass with you. His name is Shalin Shah.
That's correct.
That's Shalin. Shalin's listening right now, I bet. Hi, Shalin. But anyway, I heard you guys, and I've already told you a lot of times how blown away I was, but let's not talk about Protolith at the moment. Let's talk about the person, Josh Evaldi, okay? Josh, what was it? What brought you to being a musician? What's the pivotal moment that you decided it was time to play an instrument?
Well, I was a freshman in high school, and I had all these like feelings and shit, and I just had to write them down. So I wrote these really awful lyrics, and I was like, yo, how am I ever gonna, convey these to people? Because they need to hear my awful freshman 9th grade lyrics. So I started playing bass, and I was pretty bad at that. And then I picked up guitar because my friend Anthony played. And then I'd practiced like constantly for years. And then I got pretty good, and then I just started sucking. Once college hit.
What do you mean you started sucking now? Come on.
Well, once I got into college, I just had less time for it. And that's really when Protolith started. So I kind of got less into the technical playing stuff and more into the songwriting stuff, I guess.
All right, so more into the songwriting, less into the. So what were you doing? Where'd you start and where'd you end up, you think? What's the difference? Where's the techie end and where's the songwriting stuff begin?
My MO before was I was really into necrophagist, so I was all into like Muhammad Sushmez or however you pronounce his last name. I was into playing their solos and stuff, all the sweeping things. It got boring though.
So you went from you're playing the solo-y stuff, you're playing the I guess people call that like the techie metal, like you're gonna play the hard metal. What made you decide that all of a sudden you're gonna focus more on songwriting?
I don't know. I think I heard ISIS probably for the first time in one of my first years of college, and then it kind of changed everything for me. I listened to Poison the Well, the You Come Before You album, a lot in high school, and I never really got into playing that because I just didn't have an appreciation for it, I guess. I thought playing at 90,000 notes per second was really what made you good. And then, once I kind of had that pivotal moment when I got a bit older, it's, I guess maybe the qualities in music that I liked had changed so much that I didn't want to be that technical dude anymore.
So no, nothing earlier than high school. Because I mean, when I sit back and I think about music, I mean, I hum stupid shit all the time, like Janet Jackson melodies and stuff that will never ever leave my brain because they are like because my brother was the metal guy, and my sister liked metal, but it was like the hair, like the Poison and Motley Crue and stuff that isn't necessarily bad, I guess, but it's not stuff that I would ever want to listen to again. But there's stuff I hear, like I'll be humming to myself one day and I'll be like, what is that? What how do I know what that is? And it turns out to be some like terrible Janet Jackson song from like 1991 or some shit.
Those are the best though.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you,
catchy.
over some of the pop today, I mean, I'd rather listen to Janet Jackson, but is there any moment like as a kid or not even as a kid, maybe as a teenager, but you're an only child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't necessarily have that kind of like those older brother and sister voices in your head.
Yeah, I didn't really have too much exposure other than my parents. My dad listens to The Who and Aerosmith a lot, so I guess I knew about that stuff. I actually really liked Black Sabbath a lot when I was younger because he liked it.
Having a dad that likes Black Sabbath is a plus.
It is.
That'll get you places faster, I think. I don't know.
Although I think the first like album that I ever owned was I think it might have been like the first album that the Wallflowers came out with, and then I bought like maybe Eminem and Eiffel 65. So really, I was a pretty diverse child.
Well, that's a good
stuff.
That's a good segue because I want to talk about. Did you have any embarrassment like? When a lot of people who I know and who know me know that like I had like a Kid Rock phase, and like I always reference that as like, I didn't know any better. And if I was 13 years old and still pissed off like that, Kid Rock or something like that or Limp Bizkit, that's just very appealing when you're that age. Did you have any like oh God moments like, ooh, you look back on them now and you're like, oh shit.
I think maybe, well, in about 4th grade, I started playing the flute, and then it was just years of endless torment from peers. I actually remember there's this one girl, kind of heavy set, and she always used to give me shit, always, every day.
For playing the flute?
Yeah, and I got sick of it one day, and she was like, oh, you know what, you're gay, you play the flute, and then, like, I think in front of everyone, I just screamed, like, it went dead silent, I just went, you know what, you're fucking fat, and then just, she went totally, like, pale and just walked away. It was the best, actually.
And but, that's no blanket statement on women of size, because everybody who knows me knows I sure love them. But anyway, well, she's giving you shit, so you had to. I almost played the flute, and I played trumpet that was like the first instrument, I guess. But I almost played the flute too, and actually, it was a cousin of mine who played the flute who told me when I told her about it that all the 2 or 3 guys in her middle school or whatever who played the flute got picked on constantly. So I decided to play the trumpet because it was the only other available instrument at the time, because they were all drums and all the cool ones and saxophone were all taken up. So, but you had to do what you had to do, right? Because she was giving
Correct.
you shit about playing the flute.
Didn't even matter. I just had to call her out on something I knew would shut her down.
There you go. And if she's somehow listening today, whoever you may be, just don't take it personally, okay? Anyway, So you're 15, right? You're a freshman in high school, and you're starting to write shit down. So it really stems from starting to write down lyrics, and then you decided that you need to put these lyrics to songs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think probably in 8th or ninth grade. Maybe my first real exposure to metal was probably like Korn and Slipknot. Pretty like standard ninth, 8th grade metal stuff. So that's really what I was trying to make, I think.
So let's talk about this, because this is a pretty there's like these gray areas for a lot of people, and this is one of the most frustrating things for me, is because a lot of people, and I guess it's not even really frustrating, it's just hard to talk about, because a lot of people hear heavy music, and it's so hard to tell people why one heavy thing is good and why one heavy thing is bad, because to a lot of people, it's kind of just all the same. Like, they don't get why. Okay, here, let's put it this way, right? What is the difference between ISIS Panopticon and Korn Follow the Leader? Like, because there are some people who just, they get this, all they hear is the anger, and all they hear is the distorted guitars, and they hear people yelling. But what is the difference? And not even talking about, one might be more commercial than the other. What is the difference between an album like an ISIS album and an album like a Korn album?
Well, what's the difference between tequila and gin? They're both alcohol. I mean, I guess they share similar qualities in the sense that they're both angry, but I guess totally different flavor is really, I think, the difference between the two of them.
But if you had to explain the differences between someone who had a totally untrained ear, someone who did not even invest the time or energy into, well, it's just all, literally, because I've heard people say that, it's all metal, man. It's all heavy. And what's like, if you could list, I hate to say list 3 things that are different, but someone who just has a totally untrained ear, what do you say?
I would say maybe depth of the music is really the difference. So maybe I can't profess to be too strong on ISIS lyrics, but I would imagine that they're a lot deeper than Korn might be. Korn is about like...
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd have to venture that guess. So I'd say depth. I think a lot of rhythms are totally different in those two bands. As far as guitars go, like tonally, they're probably pretty much the same. They're very thick and distorted sounding, so they might not hear a difference in that necessarily. Vocals, to an untrained ear, they're not going to sound too different either. It's really just, it's Aaron Turner's growls versus Jonathan Davis's weird yelly things that he does. So maybe, I mean...
So are we coming to the conclusion that maybe we're just assholes and there isn't really that much of it? Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm thinking. I can't really come up with too many differences if I was going to explain it to somebody who had no idea.
I guess that could all, I mean, I don't know. I see, it's one of those gray areas, and it's hard because for some people somebody could sit down and tell me, fuck man, that ISIS record is great, and I can say, fuck yeah, it is, but then they could also go to a Korn show, and I mean, I can't, and I don't hate Korn either, I don't like Korn.
But pretty cheesy.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of ISIS, I hate to be the guy that I don't know. I don't like to suck the penis of something that's already been sucked enough, but if that made any sense. But I grew up with, and I've told people this before, I don't know if I've ever told you, but I grew up with literally Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, Pantera. I grew up with about every, as much as the mainstream media outlets would allow, in terms of just gross, ugly, angry vocals, and I never wanted to even attempt to mock them or do them myself until I heard ISIS, and that's the goddamn truth. So for that, my cover's blown, I guess, if you come to a Warm show and you're like, man, that guy, he just does those screams really well. I didn't want to do them until I heard ISIS. I think it was Panopticon. Speak to that if you could, to make me feel better.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah, you can't. It's not up to you. But anyway, go on. We're gonna go on with you, and you're starting to write lyrics. You're starting to make music. What was the first batch of songwriting like when you got a bunch of guys in a room and you started to plug in your amps and however you did it, what was it like to make songs?
Oh, dude, it was astronomically lame. Go
on.
I don't even know if I could. I would be too embarrassed to try to remember these lyrics. Just imagine like the worst thing ever. Just like
They couldn't have been that bad.
I don't know, like, my girlfriend broke up with me, I hate you, kind of stuff. And, like, I guess that's a lot of lyrics, but, like, imagine them, like, the most fucking base way, like, I could have said it. That's what they were. And we didn't have a drummer. Well, I guess for a little bit we did, but he didn't want anything to really do with metal beyond, like, Tool. So we had, like, one dude trying to do that. And I wasn't trying to do vocals necessarily at first, but we had this other kid who really liked the Blood Brothers, and that's all he wanted to do. So he was trying to be like, the entire time.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it was, I'm not lying to you, it was really bad. And my friend and I would play, like, really dumb riffs. I don't know. It's nothing I would ever want anyone to hear.
Well, that's the growing process.
It is.
You get in a room and I can't remember Antithetic. That's what my first band's name was. It wasn't really a band, but I thought antithetic was the coolest word ever, and it was like, we're gonna be different. We're gonna rock the world. But that's just what it is. You get in a room and you don't really know how to write things yet. You don't really know how to do things, but
yeah, you just don't do anything. It's like you're just saying you're in a band.
Yeah.
You have all these lyrics. Like, I think I had probably like 18 songs and none of them had any music whatsoever to them.
There you go. Well, that's that's where you got to start at least, right?
Yeah.
So time goes on, years go on, and you find yourself. Where was the change happen? Where does it all of a sudden you said you switched to songwriting, but how does that morph into Protolith?
Well, there's kind of more of an in-between period, I guess. So I was just talking about maybe, I don't know, 9th, 10th grade. So about 11th and 12th grade, my friend Anthony and I started playing guitar a lot more.
Anthony Agracia.
That's right.
He's the man.
Yeah, so we started playing more together, started getting a bit more technical, more into necrophagist. So we started making songs more like that, and we actually did have songs, just not a drummer to play with. So after a while, we were just doing our thing. Nothing's really happening. I ended up meeting Matt Ayers.
Matt Ayers.
That's Protolith's other guitarist, and he asked me to play with him one day. After I comment on a t-shirt of his, he was wearing like a faceless t-shirt. And so then from there, we started playing together. Our old bassist was there. He kind of lost interest, but we have kind of just been playing the same stuff for the most part for a couple of years now.
All right, so you meet Matt Ayers, and I know Matt. Matt's the man. I hope he's listening. I hope he listens to this because he's cute. And you meet Matt and explain how you meet this guy named Brian Nadeau, because if you haven't seen him drum, you should go see him drum, because just literally call him and ask him if you can watch him drum, because this guy is like, if you could take Danny Carey and meet him, that's what he is. That's what he is to me. But so explain that. How do you meet Brian? How does Protolith write its first song?
The first song we ever wrote was Naissance. So Matt invited me to play with them. They were playing mostly metalcore with a couple other guys from East Long Meadow. And I guess they were kind of tired of playing it, so Protolith started off as a side project of that. And so we kind of were just sitting around in our old bassist Tom's basement, and we were just like, okay, well, what kind of style do we want to write in? And I kind of figured, well, post-metal, because that's more what I was listening to at the time. So we started writing Naissance, and that was the first song that we ended up writing. And the first time I saw Brian play, I was just mouth agape the whole time. He's fucking crazy.
So the first, and what we're going to do here now is, this is the first Protolith song I heard, and this is my favorite part of it, and it's probably my favorite song still, and it's a song called Fallacy, and it is on their first release called. What's it called? I want you to say it.
Light.
Okay, good. It's called Light, and let's take a little listen right now. That was Fallacy. That when I heard that song, and I listened to the whole thing, what I talked about in the overview here, I couldn't believe that there was another band making, I guess you can't really say we're similar bands, but we're in the same vein. It's another one of those gray areas.
Yeah,
where
in the
it's
same universe, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I hate to put myself on an island here or anything, or put my music or anybody involved with my music on an island, but it's so different when you're playing a bunch of shows with bands that you just do not fit with. And that still happens to us today, both of us. But that was the treatment we were used to, and there's just so much going around us that we don't care about or like. And I heard these guys, and I was just like, I can't believe that someone else is doing this, and they're doing it that well. So I've told all you guys that. But that was it for me. And describe what it was like writing that. Was it 8 songs?
6.
It's 6 songs?
Yeah.
6 songs on that record. Describe what it was like putting that together, and what it was like. Was there like what I'm really curious about is, was there like a moment after it was done that you were just like, fuck, like that's 6 songs of just like pure, it's exactly what it is. It's just what we wanted to do, and it's just awesome. Like, was there a moment after that? Describe what it was like to write it, and then the finished product feeling.
It was an exciting experience for me because it was my first recording that I ever did. The writing process was actually kind of great. We did a whole bunch of different things. We would write some songs all together, and I'm kind of a maniac, so I'll come up with riffs upon riffs upon riffs upon riffs, and then I'll show up to practice, and I'll dump almost a whole song on everybody, and then they'll kind of pick and choose from what I gave them. Or Brian and I sometimes would just get together and try to work out a whole song together, and then when the other guys would show up, they would do that. So there's some songs where all of us were together writing every single step of the way. There were some songs where I wrote most all of it, some songs actually where Matt wrote most of all of it. So that record's kind of strange, actually. None of the songs are too consistent. When we got done recording, obviously I was very excited. Really happy to get a record out. We didn't play, we never really play too many shows, but we didn't play too many shows for those particular songs. We try to incorporate them sometimes now, but not too often.
And where the people who are listening right now, where can they go listen to that album and all your albums?
Both of our current recordings are on Bandcamp right now, so it's just protolith.bandcamp.com.
And Facebook link is in there too, right? Protolith MA, I think, right? Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm out of the Facebook
You're out of the
game.
That's right. I believe, folks, it's Protolith MA, as in Massachusetts, .facebook.com, or facebook.com/ProtolithMA. There's some music on there too, but go to Bandcamp because Bandcamp's better. So that album, I'll tell you what, it wasn't recorded in a flashy way by any means, right?
Definitely not.
But I'll tell you, and there's some There's, things about that album where I can obviously sit and go, oh, maybe this isn't mixed right or something's wrong here. However, the thing that always draws me into an album, like we talked about Panopticon and why that's one of my top 5 favorite albums of all time. The first Black Sabbath record, probably number 2. When an album has that consistency to it, where there's just a mood, and it's one of the hardest things to describe, but it's like when I look at the cover of Black Sabbath's first album, and there's that fucking creepy woman and she's in that little town, that's what that album sounds like to me. And it's like that, and when I look at the cover of Panopticon, it's just got that blue, and it's like that's what that album sounds like to me.
Just lonely and desolate.
But that while I could sit here, and I'm sure someone with a trained ear could sit and go, oh, the guitars weren't recorded right or blah blah blah. There's something about that album that has just a mood to it where I'm surprised you said you didn't think it was consistent, because that to me is what's consistent about it. It's just this mood. Did you strive for this mood, or do you think it has that mood? And if so, you reflect on that.
I don't know what mood it has exactly.
I guess it's hard if it's your own work. It's kind of hard to say that, but go ahead.
I guess we were going maybe for more hateful. The tonality is not something we tried for at all, really. We kind of had no idea what we were doing, and we let the guy Ryan Moget, who recorded us, kind of just do what he wanted. We gave him an idea. Mostly, I gave him like Intronaut, Null, and their Void records. The tonality of those to me sound very like desolate and lonely and sad, and that's kind of what I wanted to go for at that time. If we achieved that, I'm not quite sure, but maybe we weren't too far off.
That was weird. Small break. Did you hear that?
Yeah, cut.
Cut for a second. That's weird. Oh. Well, okay, good. In terms of that's what I hear, man. I hear that there's just something about there's this. Again, it's hard to even explain. It's just like I hear the mood, and that's why when I heard it, it was just like it's just this desolate and angry, and there's just kind of like a beast in that album, and it wants to stop feeling pain or something.
Thank you. So
yeah, if you're listening and you have not heard it, please go do yourself a favor and hear it, because it's and I don't usually I don't get excited about things very easily, but that really did. Maybe because I was excited that there was another band, maybe that helped, but I still feel that way about that album. But talk about what you did. Talk about your gear on that album. Like, what was your idea with your sound like? Because I know your sound has evolved a little bit over the past couple of years, and I want to get there too. But what was it? Talk about amps. Talk about what you were trying to achieve.
I pretty much kind of had a budget set up at that point, I think. I know Matt was using a PV6505 Plus. What guitar was he using? I think he was using just an Ibanez with some humbuckers in it. So he was a lot brighter sounding than I was. I was using an Ignator Tourmaster 4100 and an Epiphone Les Paul with I think a Dimebucker in it. So really kind of actually cheapo.
A Dimebucker.
Yeah,
huh?
Cheapo stuff. I threw a Seymour Duncan, I think, jazz humbucker in the neck of it. So it's a really unique sounding guitar, actually.
And when we say cheap, we don't mean bad. Like, yeah, I don't like I love Epiphone guitars. I've come close on a couple occasions to going for the Epiphone version because it looked just as sweet and felt just as sweet and sounded just as sweet. But that's my thing. I mean, I'm a believer that it doesn't matter what you are playing. For instance, I'm playing right now in my room because where we're sitting, all of my gear is, because this podcast area is also my band's rehearsal area. All of my gear is here, and I haven't had a head in my room for a long time now. I'm playing through my roommate Pat's solid state B52, just this head that should not be used. Like and I don't mean that in a snobby way. It can't do anything. And I'm using Keenan's Flying V through a Boss feedbacker distortion pedal, and it's like it sounds good. I got a sound out of it, so it's like what I'm saying is I'm a firm believer that you don't have to go out and buy $3,000, $4,000 diesel to sound good. Obviously, there's some more top of the line gear that sounds better than others, but and better than some of the cheaper ones, but. What you mean is you were on a budget and you had to do what you had to do to you had to work with what you had to work with.
Correct. Yeah. So I feel like with the Ignitor, I got kind of a more bassy tone out of it. So now I have a Gibson Les Paul. I think just like a special, like a '90s one, early '90s, and a Mesa Mark V through an Orange 412. I guess a jump in quality as far as tone goes, so I like it. Matt is actually using my old Ignitor now, so he's more of the bassy player.
Yes.
For the new songs that we're writing, we try to be as complimentary as possible as far as tone goes, but now I'm definitely the brighter player. He's more of the sludgy player, but we still wanted to make everything pretty sludgy. I actually can't think of too many parts on new songs that we're writing that don't have a delay pedal on.
Ooh.
So it's very, very, very atmospheric.
Good. Well, before we get there, I said in the opening here, I had the pleasure to be the guy. I guess we're saying engineer. I don't know if that's what that's called.
We can say that.
Yeah, we can say engineer. But through my own recording and learning through the guy who taught me some stuff and lent me a bunch of stuff. His name's Bucky Masters. If he ever hears this, he's a really good guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but he just taught me where to put some microphones, and he'd probably say that I still don't know where to put them. But I engineered on that, and it was an EP. It was not a full length, correct?
We write somewhere in between those, I think.
Yeah,
a long EP.
I would agree with that. Let's take a brief sample listen of the first song on Sunsetter, which you can hear on protolith.bandcamp.com. This song is called City of the Blind. So that was City of the Blind off of Sunsetter. If you hear that one live, you don't have balls afterwards. They just fly right off. But let's talk about the differences between the songwriting process. What's the biggest difference between Light and Sunsetter? Because Sunsetter is meant to bridge a gap, correct?
Yes.
What is the difference between Light and Sunsetter? Where did the songs go?
There's not too much of one. Well, I could kind of tell you the whole story I'm going for.
Please
if
do.
You're interested.
We are interested.
Okay. So, if we were to press Light, I actually don't think it's possible at this point because we don't have masters to it anymore. So the only way you can get it now is online.
What do you mean anymore? You had masters to it?
Actually, I don't think that we did.
Okay, I was gonna say because that's I would hate that. It's like losing all like the original files.
Yeah.
Brutal. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So if we wanted to press the originals, I mean, if we ever want to have it pressed, we have to re-record it basically. So anyway, the songs on Light, I guess, are I can't speak for Matt really, but just me kind of being mad at things and just upset at the way that the world is. And if we were to press it, I thought I was being clever at the time. There's like a triangle thing on the cover with our name in it, and on the back cover that we had planned, if we were to press it, it would say N, and then at the tip of the triangle it would say Light, and then at the bottom right it would say Enment, so Enlightenment, and ooh, I know, I thought I was being clever.
That sounds pretty good. I like it.
So basically, the first part of this story that I would like to flesh out between the three recordings is it's basically a person coming to realization that they're unhappy. So in Light, they're becoming enlightened, saying, hey, I don't like the way that things are in this world. I don't like the way that relationships work. I don't really like the way that society works. And then that kind of transitions more into Sunsetter, which is now things are getting a bit darker. So I got kind of more political, really, than I wanted to with a couple of the songs, a little bit more anti-religious than maybe I should have been, but I guess it all kind of goes hand in hand. So at Umbra, I really feel like that's the turning point where this person is like, okay, fuck it, I can't.
And Umbra's the last song on the
Yeah, it's the last song on Sunsetter. So this is the point where the person's going, fuck it, I can't do this anymore, I'm tired of it. So Dark is basically a journey of aloneness and basically suicide. The entire album is about the process of dying. I guess I was kind of going more for water themes, so maybe someone jumps off a bridge or something like that. And the songs are kind of a collection of past memories from this person's life and I guess visualizations as their brain is dying and their neurons are firing off all these crazy things. So it's kind of just like a last hurrah into nothingness is really the whole point.
That's and we just played in Springfield, right? Right, that's where it was, I think.
Yeah.
Springfield VFW or something, and they played a whole bunch of these songs, and that is almost exactly what it sounds like. I thought someone, being the first time I've heard them, there's only a few spots I can go, I remember that, but it sounded like somebody was dying. So if that's your thing, which if you're like metal, it probably is. But that's good. So before we go on, what do we have a date, a time? Because me and my band, we're awesome with dates.
Yeah, us
and
too.
Getting stuff done, I think. Anyway. Is there a time or a time frame people might be able to at least expect it?
Well, I think the year that we released Sunsetter, I was trying to be really cool and release it on the day of the least amount of sunlight, so 12/21/12. I think I even posted
Nice.
a picture.
Nice.
Oh man, I have so many cool ideas and I just never get to follow through with them.
Such is the life of an artiste.
Yeah. Anyway, so we ended up just releasing Sunsetter. We didn't have enough material that we were proud enough of to make it be on a full length. So anyway, we have, I think, probably maybe 4 or 5 songs approximately. We have about 30 minutes of music right now written. It's probably striving for an hour, maybe a little over an hour, so it's going to be pretty long.
Yeah, and that's for any of you who listen who know, Worm's full length is written and is being recorded, and goddamn, we played the album live. We were going to record it live, and a bunch of we just played it over and over again and recorded it live just to know the album, and I was like, holy shit, this album's approaching an hour length.
Nice.
And to me, that's like, I'm under the. Not under the impression, but I am under the opinion or have the opinion that a lot of albums are too long to me, like Antichrist Superstar, right? Like I'm not a huge Marilyn Manson fan. I like him a lot and I respect him a lot and I like that album a lot, but it gets to the point where I can't tell the songs apart because it's so long. It's like if Ryan Kelly, our bassist, who is Marilyn Manson's love buddy, if he were here, he'd be able to tell me exactly how long it is, I think. But It's got to be like an hour and 20 minutes or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just so long, and I'm like, I can't fucking believe we wrote that much music, and the songs aren't that long either. It's just like there's 8 of them.
It just
but
adds up so quick.
it does, and it's like, man, I sometimes I have listened to it being, it's my music. I've listened to it a whole bunch back to back, and I don't ever feel bored. So I mean, I guess that's good, but
Good.
yeah. But anyway, we're talking about this last, not the last, but the most recent work. And I'm noticing a trend here, and those of you might not believe it, being that we're in metal bands, but a lot of this subject matter is kind of negative.
Slightly.
Is that surprising to you or to any listener out there? Probably not. Why all the negativity? Like, what is it that we do? What's the focus of like why are we so negative? Like,
That's the interesting thing is it doesn't have to be.
no, it doesn't. But why is it so naturally drawn to? I think I have an answer, and I just want to get your input on it. Like, why do we focus on this so much?
I can honestly say I think it's almost cathartic, but at the same time, I don't think it matters what the subject really is, because you don't have to publish your lyrics. You could be playing in Meshuggah and screaming your head off for an hour, and you could be singing about elementary school or something. Nobody would really know.
I bet that's what he does sometimes.
Oh, I imagine.
I hope that's what he does. I've glanced at Meshuggah's lyrics here and there, and I think I've seen some elementary school references in there.
Oh, definitely.
He's pissed off about it, I think. But
He had a rough time.
yeah, he's Swedish. They hate little kids in Sweden. But anyway, so what I'm getting at here is, we focus on all this negativity, but it's like, why does that make? Do you think that alienates some people? Do you think that alienates us from reaching a larger audience? Because the biggest thing for me is, if you look back and you look at all the bands that are still popular, like from this, like for instance, we talked about Black Sabbath, right?
Yeah.
When Black Sabbath, I've read this and I've heard this said from Geezer Butler's mouth, and as I said, Black Sabbath 1, the first Black Sabbath album, is my second favorite album of all time. I never ever get sick of listening to it. When they played the first song, aptly titled Black Sabbath, and people heard that shit, they rushed the stage and they asked them to play it again. Because people just had never heard that, like, just that
Negativity.
just that negative, dark nonsense that just, it seeps through the riffs and it seeps through the tone and everything. But my point is that back then, when you did that shit, it got you noticed. You know what I mean? Like it was encouraged. It was like you were like put on a pedestal for embracing kind of like dark shit, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that way anymore, and it seems like if you...
People still think it is, though.
Explain.
Oh, because you have those like gore grind, porno grind bands that are just going for as over the top as they can possibly be. And that's, I mean, maybe some people are into it. I can't understand it. I can't really relate to like lyrics about having my dick cut off and shoved in someone's ears or something.
Ew, that's disgusting. But I guess what I mean is, like, you can't do that kind of stuff anymore and last. You know
Oh,
what I'm saying?
definitely
Like,
not. No.
Like you hear Black Sabbath and people still say Black Sabbath, and War Pigs is still on the radio, but
Yeah.
a new band. And I'm not talking, like, I guess that's what I'm getting at here, is there's always going to be the underground scene of who's the band you said there? Stuff like that? Band name with the cut off penis?
Oh, I don't know. Just like porno grind and gore grind bands.
Stuff like that will certainly always exist, and there'll certainly always be an audience for it, but will there ever be a mainstream audience for it ever again? Will we ever be able to get to say generals gathered in their masses just like witches at black masses? Will we ever be able to say anything like
Absolutely
that
not.
on
I
the
think
radio again?
The last chance we had with that was like the early 90s, maybe.
Like the grunge era?
Yeah, something like that, or like the 80s. I mean, obviously none of those could even compare to like Black Sabbath.
But why? Why can't we get... Why isn't that a thing anymore?
People just aren't into, like, I don't know, burning out in parking lots and smoking bad weed and having, like, goofy mustaches.
I would tend to disagree. I bet anyone who's listening right now is really, really into goofy mustaches.
Probably.
But that's the thing to me is, like, I mean, rock and roll used to be, and, you know, we're not trying to be, and I'm not trying to be, you know, super negative in terms of, you know, the world around me, but it's like, you know, rock and roll and that kind of vibe used to be encouraged. And even not negative stuff. Take a look at a guy like wow, what was the fucking singer of the Rolling Stones? Mick Jagger, right? You're never going to see anybody do that on TV again.
Oh, definitely not.
Like, you're never gonna see a guy flip his shit and just like, I'm not encouraging anyone to go out and be a Mick Jagger and do a bunch of drugs and be a burnout, but I mean, like, you can't watch a guy just lose his shit anymore without it being some kind of choreographed, like, very sterile MTV Music Awards. And if it's not the same exact thing as the last thing that just happened, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hate to be trite, but it's the industry. It's whatever they decide is really what's the mass-produced thing. So you have, I don't know, industry rock bands and Miley Cyrus, and that's what people listen to because that's what there is and that's what's promoted.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And I guess kind of we're gonna wrap this thing up here a little bit, but where do we go from here? If there was a kid listening right now who was 12 years old and he's got a Black Sabbath, he just found his dad's Black Sabbath record and he spun it for the first time and he's in his Kid Rock phase and he heard the Black Sabbath album and he goes, holy fucking shit, I want to do that. I want to make that kind of music that he doesn't want to be in a stoner band. He wants to make an album that people go, holy shit. What advice do you have for that kid? Because, you know, I think you and I, we've been at this for a long time. And just to make it clear, I think both of our goals are to be like sustainable musicians, right?
Maybe.
We want to at least make enough money to keep making music comfortably, right?
That would be cool. At least a hobby.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say to the kid who's maybe even more deep under it than we are? Like, what do you do? What does he do? He wants to make this his life work. What does he do?
Some of it's in your power and some of it's completely out of your power. The stuff that's completely out of your power is the people you find to play with. You could meet people that aren't on the same page as you at all and you will make garbage. If you get lucky and you meet people that are they want to do exactly the same thing and they get you, then you're going to make great stuff despite whatever that is. And as far as the things that you can control, it's about practice. It's about writing shitty songs constantly and critiquing yourself. I know I kind of shat on my own records before, but at least that's how I feel. That's how you got to be, because that will make you improve. If you kind of are kind of negative about it, and you'll be like, oh man, I could have done this at that part. And maybe in the future you'll come up with an idea or you'll push yourself to do something different. And that's, I think, what is really important.
Paying the dues of an unexperienced musician. Is correct?
Yeah.
Correct. All right. Well, this has been the debut episode of the I Am a Cry to Hell podcast. Josh, where can these listeners go listen to your music again?
They can go to protolith.bandcamp.com.
And be on the lookout for an album called Dark.
Correct.
That's on the way. Go download, go buy it. It's for sale. It's for free. Josh, thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And eventually I'll probably run out of guests, so you're going to have to come back, all right?
I will do that.
All right. Thanks. This is history, folks. History for your ears. History for your wet dreams. No, it's not. All right. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. See ya.